Is it to grieve or to show that they are together in this to help them move on this electoral scale? That's my question. That are we seeing that really people are trying to continue to perpetuate the things that Raila Odinga was known for, or to insist on the Constitution? Bosco said that because of Raila Odinga, the Constitution was put to a test. Will we see that these individuals who are here are actually going to continue doing things like that? Or are they there to say, okay, rats on a ship and we're all scrambling about who's going to hang on kind of thing?
I think history will define that, because I think Raila was too big for us to be able to understand anybody around him. Okay? So that it is now that we will understand who the other people are. It is now that, that he has left the space, that these people have a chance to define themselves, whether they represent what Raila stood for, or just a part of it, or they actually pretend to represent that and are representing the opposite. That's what I think. But my view is that Raila was like a big fig tree. Its root deep in the soil, taking all the water and all the nutrients and covering the sun, so that you could only exist by attaching yourself around it. Okay? And so what then happens is that it is now that the fig tree has fallen, that we will start seeing growth from underneath, and we will be able to define which of the growth will be strong enough, and which kind of growth we will have. So my view is that we can define that probably in the next 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, and historians will write about it. But my view is that there are always people within the system that are able to represent part of the great leader. They might never represent the whole of the great leader. For instance, if you take Nelson Mandela, there is nobody in South Africa who we can say represents Nelson Mandela as he was. So that Zuma would represent the militant Nelson Mandela. So that this president that resigned, that had to be forced to resign, Thabo Mbeki, represented the ideological and the intellectual Nelson Mandela. And so that the current president actually represents the Mandela who was willing to make, to make peace with other people and be able to, compromise. So we are going to see that. But I don't think in the next few years we are going to see another Raila.
Let me hold you to that, Nyamori. Yes. Who are we going to see it with? Because by now you'd have started to see the underlings of this. That you should be able to then pick people and say, well, you know what? And also with you, Bosco, we should be able to see. It should be clear. I go to a biblical example. I have so many examples this morning. When Moses was giving up his ghost, there was no question that who was going to take over. Because they had already started to rise. It was clear who he was essentially going to hand over the staff to. And you started to see that Caleb was sent out to go and see what was going to happen in the land of, I think, was it the Assyrians or who? And then they came back and they said, yes, it's a land flowing with milk and honey. Others said no, that they were men the size of giants. But it was clear who Moses was going to hand over to essentially lead the people to Canaan, Joshua, those guys. It was clear. So who now can you see there must be? Was it a right choice to hand over to a certain person? Shouldn't it be clear by now who these people are who would represent different ideologies, who would start to come out or jump out from the woodwork?
It's too early.
Is it? Is it too early, Bosco?
Too early. No. In the Moses times, leadership was inspired by God and then mentored by Moses. We are living in a democracy.
They were men. They were humans.
They were
humans.
Yeah, they were humans. But then we are living in a democracy in which ultimately there must be power jostles, and ultimately the structure will choose. It's a very different times.
Is it too early, Bosco?
Very different times.
What I would say is this. First of all, I want to be very clear on the fact that ODM is now 20 years old. If they want ODM to collapse today, during today's meeting, let them allow it to be a monarch. That if it's Oburu, then if it's Raila, then it comes to Oburu, then maybe Winnie. And for them to survive, for ODM to survive, they have to allow what Raila Odinga had already come up to allow people like Sifuna and Babu Owino. Simply put, Babu Owino right now is the undisputed kingpin of the Luos. I can say that because let's not hide ourselves behind. Sometimes there's what we say in our from where I come from, those napier grass. You hide in a napier grass. You don't want to say what is happening. The truth is, the right person to have spearheaded this political party are people like Orengo, people who believed in the values, in the principles of Raila Odinga, the principles of inclusivity, fairness, transparency, change of constitution, fighting for the people who are marginalized. And Orengo has been very clear in that, and has, even when Raila Odinga was alive, he had always come out and said, you are in broad-based, but me, I'm with the people. So if you look at the speeches made during Raila's funeral, most of the people who are there, if you look at people like Bandi, Pio and I, these people are orphans. And even if they shout as much as they can, you have seen Bandi, instead of just articulating his issues as he has always done, these people are frustrated, these people are orphans. That's why he's able to shout, to make a point. And even if they shout or whatever they do, as long as they make ODM a monarch, it is going to die. ODM is going to be like Ford Kenya moving forward. And even if they agree to go to the broad-based, as they have already, all signs are indicating to that, that is going to cost them. Let me say this. If ODM is to position itself with the trends that are happening with the Gen Zs, the young people, and things like that, perhaps is the time they think about allowing these young people who have a different opinion in the party. They are saying, yes, Raila Odinga has left us, but we need to have our views need to be accommodated. And at the end of the day, ODM needs people like Sifuna. And once Sifuna, Babu Owino leaves this party, they will be left with a shell.
We're talking about ODM as a party. We're talking about a party that was built by one Raila Odinga.
Yes.
But the question up to now that you've not been able to answer in this room is, the political class that we have today,
yes,
are they living as per the aspirations of Raila Odinga, a free and a democratic country, respect to the rule of law, inclusivity, ending tribalism? The political class that we have today, those that are appearing on Raila Odinga's resting place, those that are now speaking up after Raila's death,
yes,
are they out there for political expediency to maintain the positions they have that one would say they go to those positions because of Raila Odinga? Or are they speaking the way they're speaking because they believe and trust on what the man said?
They are not.
Sorry. Sorry.
One, I would want to encourage Bosco not to define Raila in such simple terms. You can't define Raila in terms of Luo or in terms of ODM. He was much bigger than that. He was much, much bigger than that. And my view is that Raila was a moral compass. Raila, what we could see in the next few years are leaders representing various aspects of Raila.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that we will see one leader that represents the sum total of Raila Odinga in its various facets. Okay, my view is that this moment gave us an opportunity to speak about the life of the man, to speak about his beliefs, to speak about his accomplishments, and there should be inspiration. So, especially to the young people, I would expect that out of reading about Raila, out of talking about Raila, we will see new revolutionaries. Okay? About the future of structures, we are yet to see. But I am one person who does not begrudge what ODM has done, because they had to stabilize the ship. And I can tell you that few people know, Dr. Oburu, for instance, is a man underrated. Dr. Oburu is a self-effacing man, but the people who know will tell you that Raila would listen to everybody, but the advice that he will go with is the last advice that Oburu gives him before he goes to sleep. So in terms of the revolutionary men, could be that Oburu was more revolutionary than even Raila.
But Okili, let's look at the time when Raila Odinga was going for the AUC chairperson position. And at that time, he appointed one Professor Nyang' Nyong'o to take the position as an acting party leader. But then again, let's look at the party leader Raila Odinga has passed on. And if you look at the structure of ODM, we have two deputy party leaders. And one would assume or argue that it was automatic on who would come to lead, because we already have the party structure in terms of the deputy party leaders who would sit and agree among us. One would ascend to be the deputy party leader.
We are sitting in a studio and assuming that we have all the facts that the Central Committee of ODM had to look at before making its decision. My view is that at the moment when Dr. Oburu was named as the acting party leader, it was quite, an emotional moment. And probably the committee, I'm assuming, looked at who knows where we are coming from and who knows where we are going to. The only person who spent 8 years with Raila Odinga, 80 good years, is Oburu Odinga. And I can tell you for sure that I know, because I spent quite a bit of time around Raila Odinga, that Honorable Oburu Odinga was a very able advisor to Raila Odinga. So I would want to tell you, and then Honorable Oburu Odinga could be a transitional leader to enable the party to settle and then make its own decisions. I am sure younger people will come up. Yeah. But it should not be a takeover. Yes. And then we should not dictate to them. Let's allow them. And I'm not a member of ODM. I used to be a member of ODM. Yeah. But I'm thinking let's allow them to make their own choices, to make their own decisions. We cannot decide for them. Just like I say Raila is bigger than ODM. The president, because of the stature of Raila, because of what he meant, declared the mourning period and gave Raila Amolo Odinga state burial. That meant something. And I am sure that, and then, dedicated almost his entire speech during the Mashuja Day to Raila Odinga. I am sure that this country still owes much more in commemorating Raila Odinga, and I'm sure the president is going to lead us around that. So I don't think we have yet seen the evolution of leadership, the evolution of thought. I am hoping, for instance, that our universities will hold conferences and seminars and write papers and write books and start political science units on Raila Odinga. Yeah, so I think it is we are just unraveling the sum total of Raila Odinga.
Yes,
Bosco,
Sorry.
Wakili is aspirational in his thought this morning that this is the direction in which things would go. You seem to see a different view of things on the ground.
Absolutely.
What's that?
Absolutely. With a lot of respect and humility from my senior. I would want to say the following. You asked a question which you said we have not answered. I want to answer it to you today. That the people who keep mentioning Raila's name, the people who keeps going to the grave, are doing it for political mileage, purely political mileage. And I would say this, and I've just given an example, and I've said the person who seems now to be used by some Kenyans also, some politicians, for the same reasons they have used Raila previously. And people, if you ask a lot of people when Raila died, they were mourning because they expected Raila to be that voice, that whistleblower who spoke when the government is money is being looted, when the voice people require someone to go to the streets. Raila has always been there. And they said, some people argued, they never wanted Raila to be president person, but they were happy as long as he was in the opposition. Someone who is coming up very strongly is Gachagua. And I've given an example of Wanga. Wanga has come out attacking Gachagua, saying he's this, he's that. And someone who is attacking Gachagua at this moment seems to be Jamba, you know, someone who is fighting for the people and things like that. And I want to say that I want to challenge someone like Wanga. They are saying they want to be non-tribal and all that. When they are saying Gachagua should not go to Nyanza, aren't they being tribal? What I would like to say is when I talked about, I'm talking about things that some people don't want to hear us speak about. Babu Owino being the kingpin of the Luo. You have seen someone like Ruto was stopped to be the kingpin of Kalenjins. They even stopped him from visiting Moi. Where is he today? He is the kingpin of the Kalenjins. Someone like Uhuru was even stopped from being president, was stopped from with all manner of things. Today is still the kingpin of Mount Kenya. What I'm saying is I don't support those ideologies of kingpins and all that, but it is what it is. That is our politics. Our politics in this country are moved by political parties which are of regions. Like ODM has been Nyanza Western political party and also some part of the coast, but not the entire country. But if now even they want to increase the ODM to be a big and better political party with the entire country, they have to allow this intergenerational transition and allow these young people at least to take some leadership position and see how far they can push this ODM. I will not be surprised in the coming reshuffle if I see Winnie or Raila Odinga Jr. in some of these positions. I will not be surprised if I see Winnie in the leadership of ODM. That would be a plus to ODM.
You mentioned,
Yes.
You mentioned appointments in government positions.
Probably.
Why would that happen?
For obvious reasons that ODM has a pact with UDA, and the president is on record saying he will not allow people to destroy the legacy of Raila Odinga, both in leadership and in the political parties.
Is that for Raila Odinga, or would it be to cement the future of Kenya's politics? Very
good. It's for the legacy, to secure the legacy of Raila Odinga, politically to speak. Some of these things I'm saying are not the things that I really advocate for or I support, but it is likely to happen that way. And that is why some of these political parties, be it as we want to present them as national, they have always been tribal, they have always been regional, they have always been personal. You know, political interests in this country are personal before they become public. You hear someone say, our people, my people, but that person at the end of the day is fighting for his position. So let's be clear on that. So when it comes to leaders who are really fighting to secure the legacy of Raila Odinga said that, I remember I told you, these are people who are looking for survival, political survival. These are people who have always held by the court of Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga is no longer there. However, you can see the things that Raila Odinga, as I said, he has done for the growth of our democracy. After each and every election in this country, even if Raila never went to be president, he was able to test, for example, the Supreme Court. During the 2017 elections, he challenged the flawed elections, as he said, and he was able to win this. This is one of the first things he has been able to achieve in Africa. Elections are rarely challenged that we win in a court of law or through the rule of law. So Raila Odinga will always be remembered as a person who has been able to propel our democracy to another level. If you look at, for example, I keep asking myself, some of these leaders we call opposition leadership, they are not new. These are leaders who have been in Moi government, Kibaki government, Kenyatta government, now in Ruto's government, and some of them were chased. I mean, they should, I think moving forward, what we should allow, and it's a great opportunity for the young people, for the young political parties to take up this space, and let the young people build political parties and be able to now that the young people are calling themselves tribeless, leaderless, and all these manner of things, they are able to put together a political party that will bring all these young people together and fight for their rights using the things that are put in our constitution, using the rule of law as it's prescribed in the constitution.
Wakility said, power is never given, you fight for it. And you look at the person of Raila Odinga and how he got to forming one of the biggest political parties. It started from his father's political party. When he walked out that, he formed several political parties until he ended up at ODM. And even as you talk about young people to be allowed to rule ODM, to be in the leadership of ODM, what would say you have to prove yourself that you deserve to be there, that you have to chart your own path to be there. Because if you look at Raila Odinga within ODM, as much as there was a broad-based government, he allowed dissenting voices within ODM to just chart their own path and way forward. But as we talk about the political expedience that does exist, does the leadership of ODM allow for dissenting voices to chart their own path? Does leaders that we have today allow for dissenters to be heard, to be listened to, and to be given an opportunity to speak?
You know, in politics, we will always have two sides, two extreme sides, and these extreme sides will clash. And in the clash, we will have synthesis, and we will have a synthesis arising from, the clash of those ideas. And so ODM and the country will still have a clash as people try to represent themselves as representing Raila Odinga. And out of those clash, we will have a new leadership emerging. I don't think we have been able to evolve it yet. I would want to dissuade Bosco that looking at Raila from prism of Gachagua is an insult. Trying to discuss Raila Odinga and discussing Luo leadership is an insult to history. We are standing at a moment of greatness, and I want to repeat, and I want to, say that these young people who are angling for position, definitely they need to be given opportunity to, express themselves, to try what they can, but then they should know that it takes time for leadership to grow. People think that Raila probably emerged in 1992 when he became the MP for Langata. I invite these young people to read Baba Femi's book, Enigma of Kenyan Politics, and then to read Raila's own book written through, what is this lady? The Flames of Freedom. And then they will realize that this Raila grew up in politics, and I actually spent 80 years to grow. But then he wanted to run in 1974, was just stopped by his father, and that he had to go to jail and spend 9 years, go on exile, and then come back, and spent many years struggling. Some of us, like I told you, I started working around Raila around 2006 as we were preparing him for 1996, as we prepared him for the 1997 elections. And, at that moment, he told us that we are not going into this to win. We are going into this to prepare ourselves for the 2007 elections. So you see, even as he was preparing in 1996, his best shot, he knew, was 2007. And indeed, that was his best shot. So I would want to encourage these young people not to look at short-term achievement. It is not going to come easy. It's going to take many years of struggle. And they will mature through it. Probably one of them will rise up to the point of becoming Raila Odinga.
And I think this is the thing that we're trying to get to, even in this conversation. Sometimes to lend to discourse, you don't necessarily look for a solution, but you can see things that can form that solution later on. Now, the things that you speak about Raila Odinga are not undisputed. It's clear, the world over. Everybody's seen that. Thinking about, we are going towards revolution. We will get to that place at some point. We are fighting for freedoms. We're fighting for human rights. We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for constitutionalism and the rule of law. All of these things, over and over and over again. It was compacted. It was compounded. It was over time. The question is, the people who surrounded him, even though he may have cherry-picked them, can we say that truly more than 2 or 3 bear and share those same ideals and will practice them in the way in which he did? Or did they find themselves around him so that they could cement their positions for the future? And that's why we see the scrambling that we do today. Is that something that makes kind of some sense?
History will be able to define them. When I was in Form 4, when Jaramogi died, I was in Kisumu, and I was preparing to go to school at 5. And then, as I put on the radio, there was the announcement that the Ford Kenya chairman, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, is dead. We did not know, we did not imagine that anyone amongst the people who are surrounding him could fit into his shoes. Jaramogi was too big at that moment, okay? And there was a struggle for a moment. And just as we, dismiss each other at this moment, people dismissed everybody around Jaramogi. It took many years for Raila Odinga to emerge to the point where, in my view, he has actually eclipsed Jaramogi. You might want to realize that there were a significant number of people around Jaramogi actually dismissed Raila Odinga. I thought that, oh no, he doesn't fit. He cannot be what Jaramogi was. He's too, he's too aggressive. Okay, but you look at Raila, who passed on at 80 years old. He was probably more sober than Jaramogi was. Yes, he was more uniting. He would try to see the bigger picture, when all of us would want to see this small, everything about Kenya from the small prism of what we have experienced.
I think that there are people at the moment who harbor the same drive and aspiration that Raila Odinga had.
Who's this?
And that they would fight tooth and nail to ensure that they actually push for that. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
My question, Bosco, is that if those people exist and it's beyond Ndu on a Monday morning pontificating, if those people exist, do you see them being allowed to actually sit in those positions and drive the agenda by the party, first of all, and by anybody else in the country?
Very well. You know what is happening is the problem we're having in unemployment in our country is the same problem we're having in ODM. We have old guards who have refused to give way to the young people, to the positions that they are supposed to give, and allowed to be in the advisory team. So we have an 81-year-old who still wants to insist to be the party leader of the ODM, and it happens very fast. Less than even, people say there's no vacuum in this world, and it was demonstrated very well that even before you could bury the Honorable Raila Odinga, with all the respect that we have for him in this country, they already replaced, or rather gave some position to the brother, and now today is the defining moment. Whatever the Central Management Committee decides has a lot of impact in 2027.
You mentioned Babu Owino. You
Yes.
mentioned that name.
Yes.
You mentioned Edwin Sifuna.
Yes.
There was somebody else you
Orengo.
mentioned. You mentioned
Orengo.
Jim Orengo.
Yes.
Do you think that the party bigwigs
Yes.
would allow that narrative to push through for just these 3 individuals as an example?
They will not allow that. Why? because they are already in the government, for example, and the people who are in government already have said they will not leave their positions. And the Opio Ndai, Bandi, Oparanya, they are not leaving those positions. And it's to the advantage of William Ruto, because to him, he perceived these people who was given by Raila Odinga to have some supporters from where they come from. So he would be happy to have them. And President William Ruto, politics as it is, is about your calculations. And if the president is able to manage the transition of ODM to his advantage, well in. And someone called Uhuru Kenyatta. You have seen what Uhuru Kenyatta has impact in terms of political landscape.
He just needs to open his mouth at this point.
Exactly. He doesn't need to. Just he is there. You mention his name. So whichever way you tell people to go, his people, be it the mountain or people in Azimio, it will have a lot of impact on who becomes president.
I have the question in terms of the ODM, right? So here is a decision that will be made by a few individuals who sit at the top.
Yeah.
But remember, even at the time when Raila Odinga was about to get into broad-based government, he went to his people. He went across the country to listen to what his people had to say. As we sit here today, the party ODM, does it belong to the people? Or does it belong to the leadership? Or, others say, Odingaism still exists in ODM, Wakil.
I tried to invite the three or the four of us here to look at this moment as bigger than what we are talking about. It can't be defined as ODM. I am happy that you're talking about Odingaism. Odingaism will be a big thing. Raila is just like that thunder just before the rain that happened, okay, and the fullness of the impact of the death is yet to unravel, and you can hold me to this statement 2 years down the road. We have not even just started discussing Raila's ideology to understand what he was, and what I'm saying is that what will finally represent Raila Odinga might not necessarily be ODM.
So we have come from a place where the enigma, the person, the one who actually has an ideology for Kenya named after him, maybe the only one at this point in terms of Odingaism, and then asking the question, folks are already starting to clamor. The scamper, the scramble has already begun. Whether we want to wait for some time, as Nyamori says, or whether, as Bosco says at this point, you know what, we need to be in a situation where we're looking towards who's going to actually carry this mantle and move forward. What will the politics look like? Bosco, you know what some people are saying?
Yeah.
Speculation is rife that as a result of the glue that held this party together, because he has exited the scene, that the party also is falling apart. Is it?
Yeah, of course, it's falling apart for this reason. You see, someone like Babu Owino and Sifuna, I think they read this far away, very far away. And they saw that even moving forward, they need to cut their own path. And I will say this. They had seen that they really want at some point, if these people will go the broad-based way, they need to cut their own path. And maybe you will see very soon ODM, Kenya Moja, some coalition or parties coming up. And I want to say at this point, and disagree with my senior here, that Odingaism to me is what is called fanatism. Raila had both supporters and fanatics. Fanatics in this way. Someone who believes in Dennis and he doesn't care whether Dennis is wrong or right. Remember during the Katiba, the Constitution, we don't want to read the Katiba, Raila has read for us.
Yes.
Someone who can go there on the road, throw stones, the police are shooting and he doesn't care. Just because Raila, we are fighting for this and that, and Raila is there. So that Odingaism, my colleague is talking about.
But it was a powerful force. Raila Odinga could stand up and say, we are not going to work tomorrow and we all stay at home.
Raila is someone who could pull a crowd of 10,000 people with not paying them or anything, and they are there. That's what I'm talking about. Both supporters and fanatism. But that thing now, you see now, it's now being split into two. whereby there are people who are in that ODM who feel that now we need to stand for the real values and principles that Raila talked about or stood for. People like Orengo. Orengo has been with Raila since the one party states in the 90s. He was in the trenches being fought with him. He has come with him all the way during Constitution 2010, fighting for Constitution. He has been with him in Maandamano. He knows Raila's style and thoughts inside out. And I would say this. That's why I said Orengo have been one of the people who would have steered this party moving forward very well. I wanted to say about now, I wanted to explain something about why I was talking about Gachagua and now Raila Odinga. I'm not belittling Raila Odinga when I mentioned that. I'm just saying Raila is gone and there are some people who are inheriting the things he used to do and they are coming out very well. This
like
way.
What?
The people in this country cannot trust Gachagua as a president. Why? One, ethical issues. Ethical issues, corruption and all this manner of things. Two, the case in court about impeachment. It's Brad about his case and impeachment. The other thing is about track record. What track record does Gachagua have? 2 years, 3 years member of parliament, one-term member of parliament, then 2 years now deputy president. I mean, people, Gachagua got to be re-elected with William Ruto in the same candidature, and then he saw how William Ruto did it towards the election. He found it very easy. But this guy called William Ruto calculated it over 10 years ago. That's why he was able to hit it in one go. So what I'm saying is that how is Gachagua inheriting this? Gachagua is inheriting the issue I had said. People used Raila Odinga. When you are seen back then fighting Raila Odinga, who is fighting for the people, you are seen to be an enemy of the people, and you became popular in one way or the other. So people like Wanga are positioning themselves and saying, we don't want Gachagua to come to our region. I mean, that's tribal, as I said. But when you look at also the arithmetics, the national arithmetics of political arithmetics are not favoring Gachagua in any way. So when he tells people he has 8 million votes, and I also come from the mountain and he has not asked me for my vote, so maybe he has 7,999 without my vote. So ideally, those are the things that are coming out. But to answer what you had asked about the new crop of leaders, and will they be able to take over the party? I said, and I'll repeat again, if these people who have the ideals of Raila Odinga walks out, ODM is a shell, and it will remain like ANC, Ford Kenya, or these other party of Wamalwa, where people, Salasia, and these are taking each other to court, those kind of fights. But they have a great chance to transform that political party, to bring new leadership, take advantage of the trends of the young people, the Gen Zs, and move the party forward and rebrand maybe.
Wakili, let's look at leaders who got to power. What many would say, like Bosco has said, one just needed to say, I'm supporting Raila Odinga, and you get to power. Sure. That you just needed to show up with Raila Odinga, and you're sure, especially in Luo Nyanza, that because Umonekana na Baba, you'd be voted in. So there is the issue of individuals who got to these positions, right? Because of Raila Odinga, but never built a profile around them to support them being there. And that now that Raila Odinga is no longer there, they are considered to be political orphans, because where else do they go? They never built themselves up. But there is the aspect of, like he said, Raila Odinga was the boogeyman. Yeah. You just oppose Raila Odinga and you're sure of getting to power. That is no longer there. Is Gachagua the new boogeyman?
Guys, I want to
You're asking Nyamori who wants a statue to be erected on Moyavi.
Let me tell you, you are simplifying Raila Odinga.
I told you.
Friedrich Engels, Karl Marx, co-author of the various books on communism, once wrote when a journalist wrote something that was demeaning on Karl Marx, and he said that I will allow you to critique Karl Marx and say anything about it, but what I will not allow you is to write what is an insult to his legacy. My view is comparing Raila Odinga to Gachagua is an insult to the legacy of the greatness of Raila Odinga. Okay, but what I'm saying, that probably Gachagua may, just like all other Kenyans, like all of us, be inspired by Raila Odinga, and I'm hoping that when they get people like Gachagua get inspired by Raila Odinga, then they'll start talking about village and tribe, and talk about nation. That then we will be inspired not just to think about Kenya as in terms of an opposition and a government, and to think about a nation. And you know, borrowing the words of His Excellency President William Ruto, the president actually mentioned that Raila Odinga was bigger than any one of us, bigger than all of us. And you see, the president used that moment to inspire the nation that we can have a new beginning. And it is not the moment for us to be rushes. It's a moment for us to, borrow, to drink from the depth of the well that Raila Odinga represented. Okay? So what am I telling you about, people who came to power because of invoking Raila Odinga's name, or because of Raila Odinga supporting them? Raila was the consciousness of the nation, the consciousness of the movement that he represented. And therefore, if he decided that he then told his supporters that Ndu is a good leader, his supporters, because of many years of trusting him, would have no reason to doubt.
Even if the person is absolutely useless. The interesting thing about democracy is that ultimately that vote is made by the people. Okay? And if the people then make that choice, they own that decision. And it is these people who had decided that Raila Odinga was important to them and could represent their consciousness. And then my view is that everybody must now find his space. It is the moment for you to prove whether you really represented a Railaism, whether the people can still elect you because they think you are a Raila. And I'm thinking that especially in the various areas around the country, and it's not Luonyans alone, in the coast and many others, even in Nairobi, constituencies, wards, and counties that voted along with Raila Odinga. I think the Raila legacy will still define who will lead. I am seeing the next election, for instance, people losing on the basis that in the last 2 years since Baba died, we have not seen you representing what Baba stood for. There you go.
Yeah.
It took us an hour and 17 minutes, but there you go, Nyamori.
Yeah.
That it is clear, like what Bosco was saying, that it's hanging on to the idealism without sinking teeth into the realism of the issue. That what Kenyans want today, because this all comes back to the people. And so the question is, what Kenyans want? They want systems that work. They want adherence to the rule of law and constitutionalism. They want to be able to operate in their country under the leadership that is going to ensure that this conducive environment is made and kept for perpetuity. They want to ensure that that happens. These are the things that Raila stood for. But the hangers on to the idealism are not sinking their teeth into it today. And that's what's going to get them booted out, which is why Bosco is saying, I assume, I don't want to speak for him, but Bosco, is that not, people are saying, these guys are not going to be able to fight for the thing. There are very few of them who will be able to, and they're not being given the opportunity to lead. And so those who don't sink their teeth into the thing are going to fall off along the way. Come 2027, they'll be nowhere.
Actually, I want to agree with you 100% in this way. The biggest problem we have in this country is in the parliament, the members of parliament we elect. The law was passed the other day. People are crying all over. Was it passed in county assembly in Kiambu or in Nyeri? It was in the national parliament. These people, we have been told previously, when bills come there, they go to the toilet, get 10,000, and they allow bills. So, what am I saying? Moving forward, if we have to get the right leaders for this country, we start with members of parliament. Get the right people to do this job. Because we cannot allow, you see this thing of even just saying Odingaism, someone is taken to the podium there, you raise their hand, huyu ndiye tunataka. And people vote to a man, to that person, without caring whether he has education, he has integrity, he has, track record, nothing. Just because he is brown or he is red or whichever way he is, or he's a good musician or he's a comedian. What do you expect from a comedian? Comedy. What do you expect from wash? You get wash in parliament. That's where the problem is. So first of all, let us focus as citizenry. I'm not blaming anyone, but I'm just saying as the citizen of this country. Right now there is voter registration. How many people are even getting votes? What is the opposition leadership doing in genuine oversight to IEBC to make sure there is voter registration? The voter apathy we experienced in 2022, 14 million people voted out of the 22 million who are registered. Those are the things that opposition should be talking about. When you talk about now, when you see the people who are very vibrant in opposition, we are talking about Gachagua, someone who doesn't stand for anything. The only thing he stands is one term. One term. Where will one term take the people? Yes, correct the government, but with alternatives, like Raila Odinga used to do. Raila Odinga would say, the government, please stop doing this. Can you consider doing this? And even brings BBI, brings suggestions. He talks about supporting devolution. The things that are affecting the people. When 2010 constitution, we brought 2020 constitution, the aim was to remove power or reduce power from and authority from up there to the mashinani, to reduce the resources from the central government to the mashinani. But what are we seeing? Things which are totally different. So what we need as a people, first of all, is to fight for clean and people with clean record, people who can make laws to change this country. And Kenya has the best laws. Implementation, zero. When you talk about millennials like me, millennials are the people who have not participated in any way in changing this country. Let me prove to you. Raila Odinga, the people who fought for independence in 1963, they did their part. Raila Odinga, Kina Orengo and the rest fought for 2020 constitution. We have seen what Gen Z they have done in 2024, in 2025, what they are fighting for. What millennials did.
Pushed the economy.
Where? To where? Millennials, we sit pretty. When you see a fight there, you don't want to know who is being fought. You sit pretty and say, it doesn't concern me. It should concern you this time. We're starting with getting a vote, registering as a voter and voting in the end. Because now if we sit pretty and say, okay, the Gen Zs will go vote or the other people will vote, the voter apathy will still be experienced. And I will tell you, Dennis and Odu, in this by-election, expect extreme apathy, especially from those young people. Because first of all, they are not registered as voters, and now you see in the by-election they are not getting new. We are not getting new voters. So what I'm asking the young people, please, I'm encouraging them. Even in these by-elections, what you have been showing in the streets, Madamano and all, can you just prove it? Show us by casting that vote. So I agree with you when it comes to, for example, in ODM, I can openly say, and I know my colleague here, Joshua, doesn't want to hear that. It has been a regional political party. It has been only in Nyanza, Western, and the coast. So ODM has a golden opportunity to rebrand, to make itself big and better. But now, the way they are going, which we can only almost even predict what will happen today. So if they don't allow the young people in that leadership, it is even a message they are sending to the younger people, the Gen Zs, that we are not, you people, you are not required. When you are leadership as young people, you're not required in this party, go look for somewhere else. And those chaps, if they go make it's good to be sincere too. If these chaps go and make another political party, the likes of Sifuna, Babu Owino, and Amisi, if they make a political party, in a record 1 year, it will have over 3 million registered members. And they will shake this country. So it's the opportunity. Even the president has an opportunity this time to take advantage of these young people and bring them to a side and see how we can...
Is this therefore, Akili, a Damascus moment for leaders? I would not just want to talk about ODM to be specific, but as leaders, is this a Damascus moment for them to talk to Wananchi, those who depended on Raila Odinga's court for them to get to power. It's an opportunity for them to go to talk to their people, for the people to understand them, away from being supported by Raila Odinga. Is it a point as well in Kenyan politics that we think of the Mwananchi service delivery, so that when anyone who gets to power, if it's in parliament, you do your role as expected of you, without thinking that in 2027 my hand will still be held by Raila Odinga or by William Ruto or by Rigathi Gachagua. And to the citizens, is it about time that we equally interrogated each and every individual that we are voting to these offices?
You know, we as we look at that, we need to look at what did Raila represent. Raila was a social democrat. Raila believed in the people, participation. Raila believed that the services should deliver to the man in the streets. Raila believed that governance systems should work. Those are the things he preached. And so it behoves us as a country to continue pursuing that. And I'm hoping that as we, try to discuss Raila's consciousness, that we could try and inspire ourselves. And this, in my view, is not a moment to blame each other. It's a moment to inspire ourselves. And there are such moments. There are few moments. If we lose this, it will take us probably another 50 years to get such a moment. And I want to invite all of us in every platform that we are in, not to compactualize Raila into small pieces, Luo, ODM, and so on, but to look at him as this big inspirational leader who represented a certain consciousness of the nation and that can take us forward. And that we start building new leadership, we start building new consciousness, and we start building, strengthening our structures or building new structures that can take us forward. And I think the state funeral was an opportunity for us to do that. You had, for instance,
how?
Let me tell you, it brought you had certain leaders saying that, for instance, in our region, we had never seen a state funeral. There was something quite symbolic in that. Government, police, and army, if we tell you about the experience of 1966 Kisumu massacre, about the 1980s and now 1990s, and the deaths and the injuries, government and police represented subjugation. For the first time, we saw government, military, and police saluting to the masses as part of mourning a national icon. It's sort of, the president and the military were telling the people that you, as a people of this region, we see you, we recognize you, we honor you, you are part of the country. And I think that goes to the rest of the country, that Raila gives us an opportunity to find ourselves as a nation, and then and start building a new nation. I would want to, invite Bosco and the young people that he's talking about, that it is a long path. We should not be in a hurry. We should be able to define what we represent. And I would ask Bosco, for instance, some of these, leaders that he's talking about, if he has a 16-year-old, if he can leave them in the custody of those leaders and travel abroad to live with them, travel abroad for 6 months, and hopefully come and find that the son or the daughter they left that leader with is still safe. If you can find in such a leader somebody you can trust with your youth, then that leader should be supported.
Can you trust the current leadership with your youth?
That is the question we should ask ourselves.
I'm asking you.
That is the question we should ask yourself.
I'm asking you.
I am thinking that I can provide my own leadership right now.
Today,
and I've got a duty.
Under the leadership of President William Ruto, can you trust the country's youth under his leadership?
I trust my children with President William Ruto.
You do?
Yeah. My daughter is sitting exams today. I heard you in the morning mentioning that your daughter, your son is also sitting for exams today. I believe in the policies. And first, before I trained as a lawyer, I trained as a teacher. And I believe that President William Ruto has proper policies that will take this country forward.
Because kids are sitting exams today, we've moved from one place to the next, or
Not
there's
necessarily.
leadership because an
Not
exam that was
necessarily.
scheduled
Not-
when CBC education curriculum system was set in place in 2018 December and then came into fruition in 2019. Are we saying that because of the leadership of William Ruto that we are now able to see an exam taking place? I don't understand the connection.
Not necessarily. Don't get agitated.
No, I'm not. I just want to understand.
Don't get it agitated. Don't get agitated.
I'm not agitated. I want to understand what you're saying.
My point is, President William Ruto has moved towards uniting this country. President William Ruto came in when CBC had certain crises. You remember he set up a task force to try and look at some of these things. Not all of them have been addressed.
Yeah, they've just been looked at.
Quite a number of them are being addressed. Some of them are big challenges. For instance, we have a big challenge within the universities. It will take a while for them to be resolved. But I think that the mechanisms that they are putting in place is to finally resolve them. My view is that rather than being dismissive, we need to find time to understand them. We need to be able to offer our views to try and improve them. We need to try and influence. And I think that is what Raila Odinga stood for. Raila, at the point where he was dying, he was not telling us to tear down the state. He was actually telling us that we need to join together to build the state, even as we call out leaders. Okay.
I think Bosco, you guys have asked about can we trust your children with the current leadership. I'll just go and ask, can you even trust an adult in the leadership?
That's precisely.
Before we get even to children, because you see, when you talk about Raila being a social democrat, what does that really mean? Do we understand the subject of being a social democrat? You know, that everything is equal across board, that everyone is given an opportunity to prosper. You know what I mean? But here's a situation where, do you trust the leadership today, even for an adult? It's very difficult because we see what is happening, Kazimaju. You know, we see what is happening today with voter education that is not happening yet. Civic education should happen from IEBC. I mean, where Kenya? Where are we today, Bosco? You know, and how do we fix it if at all we are saying we are learning from things that Raila aspired to have?
You know, it's totally wrong when people demean young people and look down on them. Young people have energy, have innovation, and I will invite Wakili. I will show him. He has heard of the story. I will show him one of those people. He has heard of the story of an old man who is 23 years old and a boy who is 60 years. Those things exist. You know, it doesn't mean because I'm 16 years, I'm not innovative. I don't have ideas. I think the biggest problem we have in this country is that we have actually an acute deficiency of genuine leadership in this country. The leaders who are people-centered. People only think about, you know, I was just listening to Pogisho the other day, explaining how he was employed as a member of parliament, earning 10,000, and how they used to come to parliament. Parliament was like a sacrifice. To be in parliament was like a sacrifice back then. And I would agree with him because having read history, I've seen, you know, nowadays, being a member of parliament has been praised, has been, you know, crowned with so many things, especially the perks that come with it. A member of parliament is actually the most paid person in this country. You might say he is earning $1 million, but they end up with more than that in their accounts at the end of the day. Well, look at the mileage and CDF and all this manner of things. But what I wanted to say is, moving forward, I think it is only proper for us to be genuine. For example, opposition needs to be very genuine in their oversight. Governments and all the other players need to be very genuine in their public participation, because we cannot have sometimes government or leaders, even in opposition, who think they have monopoly of ideas. And you, as you have rightly seen, Wakili is dismissing young people. They are not supposed to be involved in decision making. What happens when even all over the counties, go tell me how many young people, the youth ministry that has young people in those ministries. The young people need to be involved in decision making on matters that affect them. Because if that doesn't happen, we have lost it ab initio. You know, and you understand that term very well as an advocate. So what I'm saying,
Tell us what ab initio means.
from the beginning, so we need to be genuine in the way we treat our citizenry, but also the citizenry, as I said earlier, they need to be keen. Don't be persuaded with 200 shillings. In fact, if you see a leader making people queue and giving you money, he's actually buying you. And the moment he goes to that parliament, he'll try to recover his money. And what is important is, let us try to bring each and every person's voice. Let us try to have issues of governance involving the voice of the people on genuine public participation. You know, the public participation is done nowadays by the counties and even leaders. How do you have a public participation over an issue affecting CDF being run by a member of parliament? The person who is supposed to do that oversight. How do you have a member of parliament implementing CDF, which is supposed to do oversight? Already conflict of interest. Look at the same things in the counties. I've actually worked in counties previously, in a county previously, and I'll tell you, public participation in the counties and the kind of public participation done are predetermined. You know, you call the people that are aligned to you, and you put them in a room, ask them, is that okay? Yes. And otherwise, okay. Then you give them fare or whatever you give them. You know, that's where corruption is happening every day. We should be talking about the 13 billion that about corruption. The 13 billion that corruption is happening with our police bribery every day. You know, those are the things that we should be talking about, making laws that are anti-corruption in this country. You know, those are the things that we should go to the people, even these young people. Let's not assume that they want this money, they want that. The reason they are going to Ukraine and Russia, being killed there, looking for opportunities, is because they believe these opportunities, some of those exciting opportunities with big packs, are outside there. Let us call them, like Raila had already initiated, intergeneration dialogue. Listen to them. Maybe they just want internet in their estates and their villages. Then they look for those opportunities online. You know, those are the things we need to talk about. So this fallacy of only the old people staying in the positions, government allowing people who are retired to be given consultancy, they are good, yes, they have the wisdom. Let them give advisory to these young people and allow them to get these positions. And then lastly, what is important that will end this unemployment in this country is industrialization, is creating a good environment for the private sector to create employment for our people. Today, we are having 2 million young people doing exams every year. According to FKE, every year, over 1 million people come out to the job market. Government cannot employ 1 million people. Even if it's police or whichever way, they cannot. So the best way, and I think some of the things that President William Ruto has done, if I may like it or not like him, some of the things he's really trying to implement some of these things, despite the challenges the economy is facing. Well, look at the KIPES, the industrialization is doing in each and every county, and what is doing in terms of food production. But that's not enough. Even the Galana project, for example, need to be well thought out and involve these young people. They have innovation. They can use other methods, modern methods, to bring agriculture to the level that maybe we need. We have seen there was that issue of GMO, for example. It had a lot of noise. Maybe those are the things maybe we require in this country at the end of the day to end food challenges. The issues of cancer, as I finish, cancer, we should not be dealing with cancer towards the end. Let us think, what are the causes of cancer? Because, for example, in KEBS, when you have stories, we had oil or sugar, mercury, you know, those are the things that the government should tie the knot and make sure we are getting the right products to our footstep, to our tables. We are becoming diverse. Because if you have a homestead where people are eating sugars from morning to evening, cancer is said to be thriving in sugars. So mtu anakula mkate asubuhi, lunch anakula githeri ambayo iko githeri with the potatoes, all this starch, evening starch, every time tea. I mean, we need also to educate our people on what to do when it comes to our food, the foods we take. So those are, we go backwards and try to see where is this cancer coming from, and also improving our health sector.
Nyamori, realist or idealist?
Idealist.
I'm trying to frame Bosco, and I can place him. At some point, he's talking about young people. Sometimes he's telling us it's Gachagua that represents the conscience of the nation. I don't know. But then I in my view, I still want to go back to, the subject matter, Raila Odinga. And I think Raila told us that in this country, we need to build infrastructure. He talked about industrialization. He talked about agricultural production. And I think we need to focus on those. We need to, as part of, getting back to the consciences of the nation, try and find out really what did this man want. You see, when he demolished houses, for the development of the roads, he was blamed. But many years after that, we are celebrating that he was able to open up Nairobi and other parts of the country. And then so we have opportunity, for instance, to build the Rironyu to Mau Summit Road. Let's try and focus on those. Let's unite the country around those, because I tell people, for instance, that roads are not just infrastructure. Where roads is a determination of who you want to give opportunities. It's only those that you give roads that get opportunities. Let's build our education. Let's build our agriculture. And I'm hoping that these young people that we are trying to encourage to be the Railas of tomorrow will know that it doesn't come easy, and that they'll have to struggle over the years. They will have to fail and stand again, and and they will have to reach across the aisle and shake hands with their opponents if the nation is to move forward, because no single group can be able to single-handedly move this country forward. So I would want to invite Bosco and the rest of those who believe in what he's talking about, that let's join up together. Sure. But as we do that, let's not dismiss anybody. Because if we dismiss anybody, then we lose part of the nation. And whenever we lose part of the nation, we are not able. All the moments when we have been able to bring this country, we have moved this country forward, is when we have moved from our narrow positions and reached out to each other and reached compromises. And those compromises have been better than what we had before. When we were having the Constitution, there was a lot of argument of those who thought that we need to throw it out simply because it didn't represent everything we wanted. But at some point, we had to make compromises. And when we made compromises, we have the 2010 Constitution. Yeah, we were able to move from the post-election violence in this country because the leaders were able to accept less than each and every one of them had wanted. So that is what I would want to tell the country, that Raila represented handshakes, Raila represented broad-based, Raila represented nationhood, Raila represented, nationalism over regionalism. So let's inspire. For instance, the young kids who are sitting exams today, I am hoping that when they finish there, as they sit there, they're inspired by the man Raila Odinga. And when they get there, I'm hoping that if I ask my daughter, so what inspired you as you wrote your exam? She will tell me that, what she heard about Raila Odinga during the morning period inspired her that she will have to work hard and know that she's not going to get it easy. But I also want to urge, especially the young people who are doing exams today, that it really doesn't matter. Let them do their exams. It really doesn't matter what the results would be. the fact that they have reached this level, they have an opportunity to move forward in different paths, and not everybody will follow the same paths. You know, we grew our children and try to, at young age, we want all of them to be engineers and pilots and all that, but not everybody can be that. But we need to, convince even those who don't get it that they could still be that, following different paths, or they could still settle for other careers.
Shouldn't the message be, even for young people who sit exams today, or those who go into school, shouldn't the message be that there is a right way to do things, and then there's a wrong way to do things which we shouldn't follow? So it doesn't matter whether it's education, it doesn't matter whether it's government, it doesn't matter whether it's social justice or human rights or rule of law or governance, that there is a right way to do things, and that there is a flow in which things ought to follow. We shouldn't be saying, well, just do your exams and it shouldn't matter what the outcome will be because everybody's going to go all over the place. There should be a path that even people, whether it's a 3-year-old, 6-year-old, 9-year-old, who are 10-year-old, that they should actually start to understand that there's a right way to do things, there's a right way to be governed, there's a right way to be led, and get away from this idea of at leastism, which is another ism that I've made up.
When I talk about it really doesn't matter the outcome of this exam, okay, is that we push our children, that we want them to emerge top of their classes. And in doing that, we sort of, put so much pressure on the children that, and when they don't achieve what they expected, then they get frustrated, okay? Then we get to a point where we think that we have children who are successful and certain ones are failures. I know, for instance, and I told you that I'm a trained teacher, that no child is a failure. Only systems can fail. Okay? There's no child. Once a child is born and goes through education, that child will continuously absorb knowledge and experience, and that child at any level should be able to find something to do. Okay? And we need to encourage our children that after their exams, they will actually be capable of moving forward to build their careers. And it doesn't matter the path they take. Exactly.
I want to look at the man Raila Odinga, right?
Yeah.
Briefly. Yeah. In his death, we saw a country that was united, a country that spoke of flowers of this man than when he was alive, Yeah. And the greatest lesson that we would say would learn from that is the greatness or the power that we would have as a country united and speaking in one voice, as a country united in saying no to corruption, a country united saying no to police brutality, a country united saying no to leadership that does not serve them, and knowing and understanding the constitution that there is. So in terms of just looking at Raila as well and the decisions that he made, that those who say as much as Raila Odinga did some great things for the country, their mistakes, their failures that he equally had, because man is to error. Gen Zs today say 2024 we had the government where we wanted them to be, we had an opportunity to change the country, but because of handshake we lost that opportunity of changing this country. And that perhaps would go down the history as, depending on who is looking at it, as one of the failures of one Raila Odinga. But that notwithstanding, how then do we look at all these sides and say we have learned that there is an opportunity to build bridges, right? Yeah. There's an opportunity to shake hands. Yeah. There's an opportunity for Kenyans to be united, not just when someone passes on, but even before that, celebrate them and equally make Kenya a country that ought to be. Bosco.
Thank you, Dennis. Moving into the future, let us be genuine to each other. Let ODM make the right decisions that are aligned to what values of Raila Odinga were. Let the opposition also be genuine in their cause, be it oversight. let us appreciate the reconciliatory tone that Raila Odinga taught us. Let us appreciate the forgiveness. Mama Ida talked about her looking at Raila and warning people not to inherit Raila Odinga's enemies, because, and also there is this senator from Western Gishu who had once said, siasa pana weka kwa roho, because one day they are here, the next day they shake hands. So moving into the future, let us look at a reconciliatory tone. And I want to invite also people like Wanga. Let them allow Gachagua to go whichever part of the country he wants to go. He's a Kenyan. There's a constitution well enshrined. Freedom of speech, freedom of movement. Let that be allowed. That is what is going to bring unity to our country. So when you start demarcating countries, the parts of the country that you should not cross that line, I mean, that will not help us as a country. Also, as we move forward, let us encourage our young people. Now they are doing exams. One of the mistakes that our parents did, and even us, we could be repeating the mistakes, is telling our child, when he's in grade 1, you need to be number 1. Then in class 8, you need to get A, secondary, get grade A, then get a what? A job. Let us run away from that. Let us encourage our children to do whatever they will get. They can even be self-employed. They can create production avenues like factories and employ themselves and employ others. I will tell you what, I work with these young people and I know how they think and how they operate. That's why I wanted to answer to Wakili. He needs to appreciate where I'm coming from. I work with them, and I am also inviting the government. Let the government make up policies that are aligned to the trends of these young people. The young people, they don't want the conventional way. They want to, let the government appreciate dress code, for example. They want to come in jeans and some labeled t-shirts like Huduma number, Huduma centers stuff. And also appreciate sometimes they don't need to come to the office. They can work from home if some of these things are easily doable. Because I have worked with them, and I'll tell you, agents will come to your office, will come to your workplace. A job you're supposed to do from 8 to 5, he does it in 3 hours using his innovation, and you'll be wowed. You know, let us appreciate them and do everything that is aligned to what they are thinking about. And we will be able, at the end of the day, get the value of their innovation. And everyone moves together, as Wakili says. So moving into the future, let us carry everyone along. Let us not say, you are young, I'm old. Let's sit in the table. And as I said, I would equally encourage a discussion whereby that intergenerational discussion, which involves the government, young people, the opposition, young people, everyone, and be able to but let us have rules whereby we will have a decorum in this discussion. We'll have our views aired in the best way possible. Let the government go reach out to these young people wherever they are. If they are in Instagram or X, let's reach out to them and hear their views. You know, that's what really will move this country forward.
Is that what will move this country forward? Just hearing the views? Because I can hear you. But if I hear you and I actually do something about this collective view, perhaps, and perhaps that's the thing. And that's why, you know, we may not want to hear it, but that's why the things that Raila Odinga spoke about for 30 years, that we started to see them so glorified when even one was done. When he led a referendum, he did. When he led a referendum for the institution of a new constitution, it was far from the minds of people in terms of, okay, so what's going to happen? But then when he said, you know what, this is what we should actually be thinking about, and led the battalion of people, it didn't seem like anything until it actually happened. And that could be the issue that we suffer from so much, that we suffer from a lack of implementation of these wonderful things that we say we want to do. Create a conducive environment. That's what government is supposed to do in the first place. Make sure that your children are educated in the best way possible. Set up healthcare, secure your people. But we fail to implement these things. And so when one is done, we want to make it seem as though the world will stop or has come to an end because one has been implemented. And we suffer from this lack of ability to take this thing home. And that's what leadership ought to do. That's what leadership ought to implement. And that's what we suffer from, is it not?
But remember what I said. I started by saying we have a problem. We do not do genuine oversight, genuine public participation. Because sometimes the government will, as you have said, we have all these laws, we have these ideas, but where did these ideas and laws come from? We didn't ask these people what they really want. We assumed, oh, Dennis is suffering or he has this challenge. Let's give him this. For example, now youth are being given nyota, this money, and perhaps these kind of things. But I don't know how that public participation was done, and we really need to involve them. That's why my point was very simple. Let us get these views as much as we can and make policies that are aligned to those views. And also, now once we tell them we need this to be done, let the young people be accountable to their leader. Let the leaders be accountable, and the young people will call them out on good governance, on everything that they need to do. Lastly, Kenya is run by rule of law, and if you elect someone in office, you expected that after 5 years is when the next election is. Let the people get votes. Even if you occupy, you go where, the best and the easiest way is to right now get the vote and wait for those leaders we want to remove in 2077, because now that will give us peace.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. My view is that Kenya is moving forward. Some of us lived through the 1980s and 90s, and I know that we have moved forward in terms of governance. We have moved forward in terms of education, in terms of healthcare. I think we have very good policies. I agree that we have certain areas where we need to improve on implementation. But then for us to do this, we need to come together in a discourse, not fight. And that we do not need to be dismissive of the leaders who are there. These leaders represent who we are. We elected them. They were not forced on us. And so we have another opportunity in 2027 to make a choice. For now, we need to support them as we hold them to account. And we need to give our ideas. But as Raila Amolo Odinga...
Who do you give ideas to?
We need to give our idea. I mean, the constitution.
How would that work? Yeah. Remember what public participation looks like, even established by members of parliament themselves, and that there's no framework for public participation, essentially, that's being followed from members of parliament themselves. So what you have is a slapstick kind of methodology when it comes to taking in public views. So when we keep saying that the people need to be involved, how exactly should that work?
Joshua? The issue of public participation has been, canvassed in court quite a bit. And the courts have given principles of what should define public participation. That there cannot be a specific prescription on how far, how deep, and how wide an issue should be canvassed. It depends on what the issue is, depends on who the stakeholders it depends on the impact that it would involve. But it should be broad enough, it should be deep enough, the quality should be such that it carries along the voices of the people. So then the question that we need to be continuously asking ourselves is that our decision making carrying forward our aspirations.
No,
and
that's the answer.
And it just does not depend on leadership. Leaders, anybody who is in a position of power would want to have a discretion. It also depends on us as the people. It depends on the civil society to help. This public participation forums are advertised. Sometimes you realize that you go there and there are only 10 people who have attended. And then after the law has been enacted, you hear the members of the public complaining that we didn't know that is happening. So we need to take our civic responsibility more seriously and know that it goes beyond just criticizing. It involves listening to news. It involves reading newspapers. It involves going to those forums. It involves giving our views. It involves tracking our views to ensure that our views are considered. Not all views will be taken into consideration, will be input into the decisions, but at least a consideration should be made of them.
Indeed.
Yes. So we have a responsibility. Right holders also have responsibilities, and we should be able to exercise those responsibilities.
For sure. And it came from Nyamori himself when he says you should go out and get a copy of Kenya's Bold newspaper. That is the Standard. So you want to find out exactly what's going on. So you you can actually go ahead and do that. So thank you for that, because then you've reminded us that we can actually do that. And our conversation spanned quite a number of things. Then to be able to remember where the country is coming from and the direction in which it is going. Likely that we're going to see a lot coming out of even today's meeting. And a week is a very long time in the political space, a very long time. All these things that we're talking about have happened in the course of exactly 1 week. And then to be able to see it moving forward. We will never be able, we should never downplay the impact of Raila Odinga on Kenya's free space. And of course, many narratives continue to form around many of these things. We want to thank you very much, both of you, for joining in on this conversation with us this morning. It forms part of discourse. It forms part of thinking for folks to then be able to really interrogate and to weigh and to measure as we go into the next unforeseeable future, which could be tomorrow, for all we know. Joshua Nyamori is an advocate and governance and policy expert, joined by Bosco Mutegi Kura, who is a political analyst and governance expert. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.